Hello, everyone. Madeline Dell here, and I have a fantastic author for you guys this morning. She's got so many books out. I'm excited to hear about a couple of them, but I'm actually fascinated with her work. She does two different ways with her books. She'll create a cleaner one for a different population and another one for another population. So I'm going to let Miss Deborah take it away and tell us a little bit about herself and her work. So go ahead, Deborah.
All right. Thank you, Maddie. And I appreciate you inviting me to do this interview.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. Well, I need to kind of not go on for an hour about what I've done, but I've been writing since my first book came out in 2008 through an agent and a traditional press. So I've been at this for a little while. And when people ask me how many books I have out, I have to think, because there's how many are out on Amazon available right now, which as of 28, and on Goodreads, how many things I've ever had a story in, and that's 34. So the numbers are a little different because some books are out of print now, and some are in anthologies, and so some of them are short stories, and so it's a broad range. I write romance primarily, and I write in more than one genre, a subgenre of romance. So I started out writing Western historical romance, and the Westerns are kind of gritty. There's always a damsel in distress who probably will learn how to shoot. Dastardly things happen. And I like that aspect. So that's sort of carried on through most of my other romances. So now that I'm writing military romantic suspense, that's of course in there too. She might be kidnapped. She might learn how to shoot in that, or she might need to be rescued. It just depends on the story. And of course, those are going to have your SEALs and your Marines and your lots of special ops there, and that they have to help her out of. So I like writing that kind of thing. I also write in a couple former Kindle worlds. One is L. James, Brotherhood Protectors, and the other is Susan Stoker's Special Forces Operation Alpha. So these guys are all former military, and it's the same sort of thing. Now with L's, I set a world within her world, because I got this story idea that I really liked. I've set a ranch in Montana, and women go there to learn how to shoot, to learn how to do self-defense, all sorts of things, to be survivors and thriving, fully living women. And so that one I have written quite a few. My seventh just came out, Montana Seal Protector. Thank you. It was February 8th, so it's brand spanking new. Nice. And so that one has a seal, of course. And they're great fun to write. It's one of my favorite worlds to write in. Then I'll jump over here for a second, because I write historicals, of course. Western historical is how I started. But I write 1920s set romance also. And with those, each book is about a different flapper. And it's about women in that era made so many changes. They chopped off their hair, cut their dresses shorter. It was about trying to grasp that freedom. So there's that element in each of those stories. So that one's a little different than my others. And then, of course, I write contemporary romance and fairy tale romance and some futuristic, and that's all under Deborah Parmley. Then I've got Deborah Bishop, which is a newer thing. I don't have the website up yet, but I'm slowly doing those in between the other things. And those, I have one fairy tale out. Those will be fantasy and fairy tale and non-romance, although there may be some romantic elements. So it's children's too. A dragon and a unicorn, to be precise, on the children's. So a little bit of imagination fantasy going on over there.
Ooh, I like it. So I have to point out too, I go ahead and tell our readers about how your writing method is. And also that because I also want to point out that you get to travel and write, which is also like one of my kind of things I aspire to do, is travel more and write as I go. It's going to be a while before I can convince my husband to do it, but go ahead and tell our viewers
yes.
what it's like to do that and what you do.
Well, I'm coming to you from our motorhome right now. In fact, if you can maybe see through the window, there's a motorhome right next to us.
Mhm.
And we live in this full time. We moved in November 2020, sold our house, closed his business, got on the road. We went all the way from Ohio to California to see the redwoods and then back to Memphis, a 109-day trip last year. And we'll be doing some other exciting things. This summer, we'll be on Cape Hatteras for the whole summer in Camp Hatteras, and we'll be work camping there. So I'll be in the front office and he'll be doing security. And in between that, of course, I'll write. So there's always the dream. And yes, I am living the dream. But then there's the reality meets the dream.
Yeah.
So most people think, oh, she's going to be writing in these really cool places. But when I'm in the really cool places, what I'm doing is I'm soaking in all that. I might be hiking in the national park, or I might be picnicking by a stream. I'm not writing then. I'm absorbing all of that good stuff, which goes into my writing well to draw from later. It's also kind of hard to write going down the road because I'm going to miss something if I'm doing that. So for me, writing is when we're sitting still, usually for more than a couple days. So I'm learning to readjust when my books will come out, because if I know I'm going to be moving down the road a lot, I need to be practical and say, okay, well, that particular month I'm pretty busy going, and I have to wait and do a lot of that writing next month. So this winter we stayed in Florida, and we got to one spot in October, and we just left that spot yesterday for a different RV park, also in Florida. But during that time, I wrote the whole 43,000 word Montana Seal Protector during that time.
Man, that's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's a lot of words. And it's a lot of, so when I am sitting still and I have a deadline to meet, I pretty much go with the writing. And I tend to stay up late. I'm a night owl, so I write better if I'm at night. I've tried getting up early, but what happens if I write in the morning is I end up throwing away probably half the pages I've written because they're just not that good. I'm the kind of person who, if I get up, I can talk to you, but I may not remember what I've said an hour later because I'm not awake enough yet. So we don't want me writing when my brain is like that.
Yes, I'm the same way with that because I can't. I've told myself, yes, we're gonna get up and write, and when I do, I'm just like sitting there hugging my cup of coffee, like, where did I stop? What was my thought process?
That only works for morning people.
And yeah, I have to agree. And I thought before I had a kid, I was a morning person, but now that I've had a kid, it's like, nope.
Well, and you may notice like different times a day when you get your ideas. I might get an idea at midnight.
Yeah.
And had planned to go to bed, but now this idea has popped in my head, and now I need to capture it. The same way as if you were doing dreams and you woke up and you're like, oh, I got to get this down, because if you don't, it'll drift away.
Yes.
Story ideas are like that too. So sometimes what I'm doing is putting things down. But as far as my process, I work on more than one book at a time. I might, in any given day, work on up to 3, because if I get stuck, I don't sit and stare at the page. If I get stuck, I'm not doing that for more than a minute, because I know I'm stuck, and like trying to think of somebody's name, sitting there and trying to force it is not going to make it come any faster. So stepping away and either moving, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, or get a shower, that'll do it. But also I know I can jump to another story. If I need to just sit my butt in the chair and work that day, then, or that's my time that I've wasting time looking at the blank page. So I'm going to jump to the next story, which is a different story altogether. And because I write so many different types, that's easy to do. That way I'm time management really good for that. So it's been a sort of adjustment, because last year I thought I'd be writing all the time. then I went like this 109 days. I was like, holy cow, there's no writing going on. And so I started doing a travel blog.
Ooh.
So I was getting my writing urge out, because if I go for a certain amount of days and haven't written anything about anything, I get cranky. You don't want to be around me after day 4. So
I get that way. It's crazy
Yeah.
because I never thought I would be like that, but it is like,
it is. It is. So if you can write something short, that'll help a little bit. So I started writing this travel blog, and it turned out that my readers really like that. And I'll go to a book signing and I have people coming up to me and like, oh, we're reading your travel blog. And I thought, really? Because I haven't done a lot to promote it. I mean, I didn't make a logo. I didn't post it all over the place. I basically just share it on Facebook when I write it. And then it's on my blog going out on the blogosphere. So that's turned out really good. So I'll keep doing that in between things. And you can kind of tell when I'm traveling and when I'm not, because when I'm traveling, the blog posts are coming. As long as I have internet. Now, that's the other thing about this lifestyle, is that in the national parks, not only do you not have internet, you do not have cell phone reception, because you're out in the middle and the towers are not going to reach you in there. So you just know to not worry about your phone at all, not worry about anything you thought you would be doing that day as far as internet goes, and just enjoy the outdoors. So it changed my scheduling a lot. So like what we're doing right now, it depends where I'm at if I can do it, because the video streaming isn't always good in some places. So they'll say we have Wi-Fi, and you'll think, great, they have Wi-Fi. And then you get in there, every RV in the place is trying to draw on that Wi-Fi. And we have a booster, but even still, if it's full and they're all, it depends how many people are trying to do a video. Are they all just checking their email, or they, depends. So time of day will change that, and how many people are in there. And there's some places that you just can't hold a signal for anything. So
I believe it.
I kind of have to, so you'll notice if I schedule videos that I'm sitting still somewhere and I'm probably near a city where if for some reason the internet were to go down, then I could drive to the McDonald's or something,
Yeah. They have free Wi-Fi there. I like that, because that was one of the things, if I wanted to get away, and go use the internet during college and stuff, I'm like, I don't want to sit in my dorm room and the library is closed. So go somewhere like that and use free internet. So it helps. So now I'm like, okay, with my internet goes out here, all my stuff is on a big desktop now. So I'm like, crazy. But I love that you've made that work for you, because traveling, I know it's not the big part of writing. It's really the traveling part, because I've always wanted to explore. One of my bucket list items is just to explore all 50 states and just visit it. But I love being disconnected at times, because the world is so connected to the internet now and social media and everything. And it just kind of bogs everybody down. So, and I know that's probably weird for people to hear me say as a 30-year-old. I'm like, yes, no, I'd rather go be out in the woods and not be bothered. But because I have to have that at times.
People get impatient too. And so I have to go on to Facebook sometimes and say, okay, I haven't had internet, or I have a lot of email to catch up on, or, because the thing is, if you can't get on it for a day or two, it piles up after a while.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because I've started trying to take off where I'm not on social media as much on the weekends. So I don't really answer a lot of emails and stuff. And I actually put up a post on my Twitter. I paused because I kept getting all these Twitter notifications. I was like, guys, I take the weekends off. I will play catch up on Monday and the rest of the week, but just back off, lay off, give me some space. So, because I can't, I got to have that break. So,
I've always kept some boundaries. I don't have Facebook on my phone, which
that's a good boundary.
People will say, well, send me that picture on Facebook. And I'm like, when I get back to the computer, sure.
Yes.
If you want it today, right now.
Uh-oh. I got you frozen.
Because is video stopped?
There we go.
Is audio
we're good now.
Good?
We're good now.
All
yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's pause. I was like, uh-oh. So
we need to I need the connections here to stay strong.
I know.
So I hope nobody turns a bunch of movies on. Like no
For
streaming
real.
of movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your books, where do you get, does traveling, is that your main inspiration behind the characters, or how do you come up with your characters?
My stories always start with the heroine. I see her first and she just appears and she has a problem. I'm like, oh, wow, how did you get there? My second Western, she's strung up over a mine shaft and the rope's breaking and she's been branded above one breast. I'm like,
ouch.
Wow, how did you get there? So it's that's one of my earlier books. They show up and they have a big problem and either they have to solve it or they need help to solve it. So the hero shows up a little bit later. And as far as how I write, I start off with that. That's usually my opening scene. And whatever her problem is, I'm writing. And as I'm writing, because I'm a pantser, not a plotter, other story people start coming in. Sometimes the hero won't show up till chapter 3. And then I have to change those first 3 chapters for it to be a publishable, readable book, because you can't have the hero showing up way down here. But it's that getting to know the heroine and what's going on with her kind of thing. And then I might chop off the first chapter and rewrite the second, or jam all 3 together and make it all cohesive. That I write my way into the story. So that's a necessary thing. Let's see. With that particular book, I knew when I started that I wanted to write a book that didn't do a lot of backstory. Everybody always says, don't start with the backstory.
Yes.
Just jump right in. And I thought, jump right in. Okay, if I jumped right in at her worst possible moment, when would that be? And that was the worst possible moment. So he comes down the hill and sees her and that rope's breaking. And so that's the beginning of it. Of all of my books, that's probably the most exciting first chapter I've ever written.
Ooh, I like it.
It's fun to play around with that. Where can you start it? Where can you jump in with your reader? And I get my head into the setting. So it's funny because I actually use this one when I teach. She's in that situation and the pail of water is sitting right next to her, but she can't get it and it's hot and she's thirsty. And so she's thinking about that water. And it's funny because when I read that section to my students, I notice they're all reaching for their water bottles and they're getting thirsty. And I'll think, yay, I did that right.
That is too funny. And it's really cool that you can teach, like you've got to see how that works in person.
Yeah. So if you dive in deep and you're in there with your character, you'll pull that reader in there too. So yeah.
That is awesome, because that is how you did that scene really well. I really like that. So your characters, do they go through a lot of growth in your novels?
Oh, they do. So the term damsel in distress historically was the weak heroine. And I don't like that either, but we're not all Laura Croft Tomb Raider. And honestly, that kind of irritates me too, because they're two opposite extremes. They're both caricatures. They're not real. Real people are a mix of things. And so what I like to do is take the heroine that doesn't start out strong, but by the end of the story, she's stronger. And either she's rescued herself or she's had help. Now, I know a lot of a few years back when they wanted to have all the heroines be strong, kick butt women, that's great. But even your SEAL doesn't do everything alone. There's a SEAL team. There are helpers.
Yes.
And smart folks know to ask for help when they need it. And they also know that they're stronger with a team than they are just one person. So I don't want to go the route of, she doesn't need anybody. It's not like that. So I like to think that my readers can learn and grow kind of with the character. In other words, you can learn how to do self-defense, and you can learn how to be safer and situational awareness to make sure nobody's creeping up on you. But you might need a helper, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
so I like that part. Sometimes she might help save him if he's gotten himself in a situation. Okay, she's learned to shoot. Maybe she needs to shoot because he's busy doing his shooting thing. And,
Hmm.
it's like he's just one guy. Same thing. We
Yes.
sometimes need help from each other. So I kind of wish there was a term besides damsel in distress because it doesn't go fully enough to describe what I write.
Yeah. No, I get that because even like my female characters, now that you've said that, it got me thinking on mine. They're not just by themselves. There's always others with them.
Yeah.
Like any battles or anything. I'm actually working on finishing a scene right now in my Blue Flames, which is a work in progress for my trilogy that I'm going to release this year. And she's not by herself. She's got her mates and her sisters are there. And then she's also got her teammates who are close to her as well. And I'm like, they're all tackling this like big group that I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but they all have these powers and stuff because it's a different variety. And it's a dark fantasy, urban fantasy mix novel. But it's like, she's not by herself. She's never alone. She's got somebody to help her. And like, even when she feels like she's alone, her help always comes. Like she's still a strong character, but
Right.
these beings that she's fighting, you can't just handle them by yourself. So it's nice to show that bond with them all.
Exactly.
And I really like that. So,
well, if you think about it, even police officers don't generally go in alone.
yeah.
Going it alone is very risky because you're only one person. And
Yes.
if you're looking left, you're not looking right. You can only do that one thing that you can do, and the other person could be your backup and prevent problems.
Yes. Having that partner there it's very helpful. It helps a lot. And I like that you're incorporating the strong female aspect of them learning to do the tasks to take care of themselves, even if somebody's there to help, because that is something I feel like is not really pushed enough with women in general in life. Because I've always wanted to go to a class myself because I did take a little bit of things when I was younger, but it's so hard to find them now. So like, we need more of these. So let's teach self-defense, guys. Come on.
Well, that's the thing. And people don't think about the whole picture. So you'll hear a lot about, oh, you should get a gun. And what if she's not comfortable shooting a gun, doesn't want a gun? Well, what if she be carrying mace? There's mace. There's flashlights. I've got a tactical flashlight that the police officers use. It does a strobe. Does a strobe light. And then I learned things in self-defense class, like you don't hold the light in front of you.
Yeah.
You just made yourself a target. They know where you are. You hold it over here.
Yeah.
Now they think you're over here. If they're going to shoot at you, they're going to shoot over here. Learn all these little things. So it's not just about go get a gun. And then even if you do go get a gun, nobody talks about carry a tourniquet.
Yeah.
And the people that are anti-gun, I feel like, carry a tourniquet. Let's just not even talk about guns. Go get a tourniquet.
Yeah.
Somebody might need one someday.
Or know how to make a tourniquet, like on the fly.
They're less than $10.
Yeah.
Less than $10. You could get a coffee for the same amount as you could buy a tourniquet at Starbucks,
And there's also tasers too, because that was when I carried a taser and mace with me during college. So, and everybody always thought it was so crazy that I had a taser, but I'm like, I'm not going to have some weirdo creep up on me in the dark. I mean, I was on a small college campus, but I'm like, people were getting stabbed down the road. So I was like, you got to stay on top of it, stay aware. And the buddy system was always the best. So
yeah. And it only takes one. It only takes one bad guy, and they're all mobile. They're on
exactly
cars and trucks and motorcycles, and they can be there as fast as you can on a motorcycle or a car. And it's no more silly to do that than it is to have a fire extinguisher like in our motorhome.
Oh yeah, that's a very safe thing.
We're not going to have a fire in here. If you never have to use it, that's fantastic. But why wouldn't you have it?
Yeah, be cautious, be prepared. So that is
the thing.
Yes. And I like that. And I feel like that also sends a message to your readers too, to, hey,
It
embrace
does.
that and go
It
for it.
does.
So,
Yeah.
which, speaking of messages, you mentioned kind of earlier that the heroine was kind of learning to take care of herself. Is there any other messages behind your work, or maybe a common theme?
Well, let me think here.
I guess you kind of covered the common theme about the strong female thing.
That's pretty much it. But also, I like the hero has to help her somehow, want her to be stronger, not necessarily has to help her, but has to want her to be stronger. I guarantee if you meet a SEAL, he's going to want his wife to know self-defense and how to shoot, because he knows he can't be with her 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So even if she's this tiny little woman that's, not very strong, even if he can't be with her 24/7, and so the reality is she needs to learn her things, and he's going to emphasize her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the Brotherhood Protector series, these guys they'll be the self-defense instructors, they'll be the gun instructors, they'll be all these things. He wants to help her be the best she can be. Now, I think that's really important in a hero. It's important in a couple situation, in a marriage, any of that, is that you want the other person to be the best they can be. You want to help them to be better at whatever it is. So the attraction of romance is great. And I like that in a book, but it's got to go beyond that. It's got to go beyond distract. He's got to want the best for her.
Yes.
Otherwise, he can't be her perfect hero.
I love it. And I don't like to have perfect, like, romance characters, kind of, so to speak, because I want them to have depth when I create them. And I feel like yours do. That's really good, because you don't want just that fluff. I say fluffy romance. There's a lot of people that want fluffy romances, but I'm like, give the characters like more. Let them be real.
Yeah.
And I like that you're doing that with those characters in your books. So.
And I tend to make the bad guys. I learned a few things with my first book. I started out trying to write it as a Western, and it turned into a romance as I wrote, because I didn't realize most things I write are going to do that. So I like to tell people my Westerns are gritty.
Yeah.
This is not Little House on the Prairie.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with those books, but that's not what I write.
Mm-hmm.
So extreme things happened. In that first book, she is married to a man who's a bigamist, so their marriage isn't legal. And he steals their son and goes from Kansas to Texas and leaves her on a failing farm that's being auctioned that weekend with her young daughter. And she has to go to Texas to find her son and get him back. So when I said things happen and they appear to me, here's how this one happened. I saw her, and he'd left a note, and it said, gone to Texas. But she can't read. So she has to get the preacher to come over and read it for her, because she can't even read the note.
Oh my gosh.
So she doesn't know where he's gone. So extreme situations. It's been out long enough, and there's so many reviews on Amazon that there are spoilers out there. There's really no way to hide what happened. Plus, it's been out since 2008.
Yeah.
But at the end, when she finally finds him, he's a bank robber, the husband.
Holy
and
smokes.
He uses their son as a shield in the bank robbery. So I had to create a villain that's bad enough that the reader will want to shoot him too.
Yeah.
Because readers get upset if you kill characters. Okay?
Yeah.
So I had to create that. So I like to make my villains bad enough that you'll want to shoot them. So there's no question of should she, shouldn't she? Well, hell yes, she should. That boy is being used. She has to save her son. So that book is not just about the romance. It's about her saving her son.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's mine really are gritty. Good. So most of I think there's a couple that are not. Like there's a Christmas one that's kind of sweet, but even that, I based it on a cover with the hero and heroine on a date. She tries to climb down the chimney.
You'll
So
have to
the
say
weird
that one
stalkers
more
even
time
showed up in
because
my,
it cut out.
it's,
So
oh, it cut out. Okay.
yeah,
So I
it's
wrote a
good.
Christmas romance that's kind of sweet Christmas romance based on a cover model who's dating an
Oh,
author.
yeah.
But he has a crazy stalker woman
Oh my
who went out
gosh.
on like 1 or 2 dates with him, and she's obsessed. And she tries to climb down his chimney
Oh my gosh.
while the two of them are at his house on a date. So it's funny because even when I thought I was just going to write a sweet holiday romance, here comes a stalker. It's like,
That was too funny because I could just
yes.
picture that scene in my head. Like, where did you come from? In
And
chimney.
then to make that even crazier, I thought, well, I'd look that up. You know, people climbing down chimneys.
Mhm.
In California, there have been people that tried to climb down chimneys. Seriously. And so, you know, you think you're being so imaginative. And I'm like, holy cow, this really happened.
Wow. I mean, this is also the world we live in. People do crazy, crazy
Yeah.
things like the whole Tide Pod incident thing. Like,
Right.
so I honestly, it's almost anything's almost believable these days.
Yeah. So if you write something and you think it's your imagination going, wow, that's crazy, go Google it and see if it actually happened because it might have.
That is insane. Wow. So go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the book you had dropped in February.
Okay. Yes. All right. So Montana Seal Protector is about a seal vet who he doesn't stay in very long because he's a widow and has a 5-year-old son. So he leaves the teams to come back to the US and take care of his son. And they go out to Montana. He joins the Brotherhood Protectors, and all the protectors are former military guys, and they are bodyguards. And they do that kind of work for the rich celebrities that go to Montana and for other people that need them. And so he's out there working. She goes to the Triple C Ranch, which is the ranch that I made where the women go to learn all these things. And she actually graduates from the ranch and gets a job. She's a kindergarten teacher. And she had a stalker who has been obsessed with her since college and has followed her around and taken pictures of her, but she never knew back in college. She didn't know until he showed up at her school and tried to kidnap her. And she got away the first time. But because of that fight and what this extreme of what happened, she got into that program. So now she's out in Montana and got a job out there teaching kindergarten. And the hero's son is in her class. So they're kind of all getting to know each other. Plus, he's taught her how to shoot.
Yeah.
They have this attraction during that time, but there's a rule at that ranch that you can't have fraternizing because the women are supposed to focus on, and so are the men. You know, that would be a distraction. They need to learn the things. And so now that she's graduated, they can date. So by the time the stalker shows up again to take her, and she's taken that time,
oh no,
the stalker does not know that she has a new boyfriend who's a Navy SEAL who will not stop until he retrieves his woman.
I like it.
So,
because that sounds like a fantastic adventure and crazy experience.
Yes.
And stalking does happen, unfortunately, a lot.
It does. I had a different book and I studied a little bit on college stalking. It happens in college more than we know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, this is the first that I've had that's had a child, other than the very first book I wrote. I've written couples since then, but never had any of them have children. And this one, well, actually, there's one that had a baby. But other than that, they're usually just the two. So it was kind of fun writing a 5-year-old in kindergarten because kids that age are fun.
Yes.
And writing the kindergarten scenes were a lot of fun.
Oh, I like it because my son's almost there, and it's I can definitely see myself relating to that.
Yeah,
I love it. And you said it dropped February
8th.
February 8th. That's awesome.
Now with those, the books are interconnected. You can read them as standalones. There's only a couple that you probably want to read the other books first. If you Triple C Ranch Christmas Wedding, that is a wedding from the very first couple in the series. So you'd want to read book 1 before you read that one because they're getting married in that one.
Okay.
But the others you can read at any time you want. And they're all connected. Yeah.
That is so fun because I like worlds that are interconnected, but aren't, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, go ahead and tell our viewers where they can find you to follow you on social media and your books.
Okay. So you can find me. Of course, I have a website, DeborahParmley.com. The last name's a little tricky. So it's Parmley. And I have Facebook and Instagram, not on Twitter, Pinterest. Let's see. What else? Oh, I've got the travel blog. So that's Beautiful Day Traveler.
Okay.
And then I have YouTube, a Beautiful Day YouTube channel. And I'm starting to add video to that. So I need a little practice on making them pretty. But I've got a lot of video footage of that trip we took last year that I want to put some things together for that. Awesome. And oh gosh, if you just Google my name, you'll find all kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me on the show today.
Thank you, Maddie. It's been lots of fun.
Yes.